Welcome everyone, Dylan Gemelli here today with a brand new video for you. So today we are going to do a little SARMs Q&A. I've got a paper printed out here with different questions that I've been getting, and I try to find questions that are more commonly asked and things that seem to be brought up more often where there might be a little bit of confusion. So I'm just going to start off the top. Now, first question is asking me about whether or not that the person should be using an aromatase inhibitor, specifically using arimistane, oncyclin, and PCT. SARMs don't convert to estrogen. Can you use it? Sure, you can. I wouldn't recommend it. Now, I'm the one person out there that will tell you, I don't care what you run. I don't care if you're running Winstrol, Anavar, something that doesn't convert to estrogen. Always have an aromatase inhibitor on hand. I don't care. Just in case. I have seen some of the strangest occurrences. Is it likely? No. Is it more likely to get struck by lightning? Maybe. I don't know, But you should always be prepared. It's not like Aromacin or Arimidex is going to break your bank. Just to be on the safe side. But when you're using SARMs, you should not need anything. Now, there's a couple instances. One, you buy a fake SARM, which I see happen quite often, and you should always be prepared unless you know your source. But I have seen some strange occurrences, more specifically with LGD4033 and MK2866. I mean, it's as rare as they can be, but I've been doing this so long, I've seen it all. So have it on hand. I really wouldn't use it. You don't want to crush your estrogen. There's no need for it. Some people will say they're really gyno-prone, and that's okay, but if you're going to do it, run it extremely, extremely low. Okay, you don't want to have any sort of estrogen crushing going on whatsoever. Another one that I often get, do I need cycle support? Is there liver toxicity? Is there any effect on blood pressure? The only thing that I've ever ran into, and it's mild, is a slight raise in bad cholesterol with RAD 140. But in terms of any other toxicity with SARMs, once again, if you have real SARMs, there is none. Now, I stay on cycle support all year. Mainly because I really like to take care of my liver, my blood pressure, my kidneys. But is it an absolute must with SARMs? No, it's not. It is not. Like I said, it's certainly not going to hurt you. And it's something that I stay on all year. And especially when I come out with, my Organ ST from DGA, I'm staying on it regardless. I'm going to use the products that are in my name, out there that are marketed under my name. So of course I'm going to use them and with good reason, but that's just for health maintenance all year long. It's not an absolute must that you use it with SARMs because SARMs are not toxic. Here's another one that I often get, and I don't even need to look at my paper for that, is, I'm going to try to word this the best I can. What kind of gains will I get from SARMs as opposed to steroids? And I've done videos on SARMs versus steroids where you can see that. I'm never going to sit here and tell you that SARMs are as strong as steroids. If I did that, I would be somebody that you shouldn't listen to, okay? I'll never say that. But what I will say is this. SARMs are far less suppressive and cause far less side effects, so they're easier to recover from, so keepability is a lot easier with them. Are you going to see as drastic of a change with SARMs against steroids? Of course you're not. Unless you're running Proviron or Anavar by themselves or something, then there are some SARM stacks that could be very, very comparable, head direct on. But the key here is the alternative to steroid use, and you can still see really strong gains for them, and something like LGD can put up on them to 10, 11 pounds at least. In some cases, not in all cases, but it's generally around the 7-pound mark, as with MK2866, but LGD is a bulking SARM where you can easily put on 10 pounds, and that's definitely head-on comparable to certain steroids. They're just not going to be as strong, but it's, hit and miss there because you have to look at it. Well, some people don't like to inject. Some people, they're not in the right condition for steroids. This is the alternative, and SARMs are the best alternative out there. So when you compare them, well, you got to look at all the factors. You can't just say, well, steroids are a lot stronger. Well, duh. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to answer that question. I could tell somebody in middle school that and they could figure it out. But it comes down to so many other factors that I've touched on several times. Another good one is do I need a PCT with SARMs? One of the things that concerns me a lot is that I see people saying, well, you don't need any PCT, or you can just run a test booster in PCT. Listen, SARMs are not nearly as suppressive as steroids, and then other SARMs like MK2866 and S4, they're extremely light, and they're all pretty light on suppression, but when you start running LGD4033 or RAD140, or you start stacking SARMs, listen guys, you don't need a full PCT. You don't need, when I talk about running a full PCT and extending it to 6 weeks and running Novaclomid, Aromas, and GW5016, 501516, and MK2866 in your PCT, you don't need to do all that with SARMs. You need one SERM. You could pick Clomid or Novadex, and you run it at a low dose. You don't need to run crazy high amounts. 25 milligrams a day, 4 weeks of Clomid, or 20 milligrams a day, 4 weeks with Novadex, and GW501516 in there for cortisol control, and as well as to and keep your performance enhancement up during PCT is perfectly fine and plenty. You can absolutely run a test booster in post cycle. Post CT, the one that I designed on DGA, is perfect for that scenario, but I like to see that ran on cycle the last 4 weeks to mitigate the on cycle suppression that you do experience and make the transition into PCT far smoother. But either way, you don't want to just depend on that for PCT. You need a SERM in there, but you don't have to run a crazy big large PCT unless, once again, you have a fake SARM. Then of course you're going to need a full PCT, but with real legitimate SARMs, you definitely need a mini PCT, which includes a SERM, selective estrogen receptor modulator. Okay, that's what it is. Just make sure that you're using one. Don't go into PCT without it, please. That's just should be a given. And then, another one that I get, can I or should I stack SARMs? Well, that depends on your goals. I like to see a stack all the time, at least of 2, because of the synergy there. And, each SARM has a specific trait or characteristic about them that really makes them excel or stand out, okay? And when you run them together, the synergy there is amazing, and so it's really nice to stack 2. Do you have to? Can you still see gains from running just one? Of course you can. Is it better to stack a couple or 3 or maybe even 4? Yes, depending on what they are and what your goals are. It's all dependent on person to person and their goals. But these are some basic questions that I get with SARMs. I definitely want to cover and answer and make sure that you guys have a really strong place to go for information on basic kind of questions so there's no confusion. So that being said, stay tuned for plenty more to come. Dylan Gemelli signing off.